Imagine this: two peat cutters slice into the earth and unearth a woman's head, perfectly preserved, staring back at them from the muck. It's 1983. But the woman, she vanished in 1961. Her name was Malika Maria de Fernandez, and the real horror, this wasn't some ancient relic. It was dumped there recently, to hide a secret that had festered for over 2 decades. What kind of monster does that? Malika Maria de Fernandez was born in 1932 in the bustling heart of Gibraltar, that rocky British outpost clinging to Spain's southern tip. She was a force of nature, vibrant, ambitious, the kind of woman who turned heads in a post-war world still dusting itself off. By her late 20s, Malika had carved out a life that screamed independence. She worked as a maid in a wealthy household, but her real passion, dressmaking. Oh, she had dreams bigger than the Strait of Gibraltar itself. In 1958, at 26, she married John Eric de Fernandez, a local man with a steady job and a quiet demeanor. They were a picture of mid-century bliss. Young, in love, building a future brick by unremarkable brick. But Gibraltar in the 1950s was no paradise for women like Malika. Tensions simmered between British expats and locals, whispers of Franco's Spain eyeing the territory like a jealous neighbor. Jobs were scarce, gossip was currency, and a woman's reputation fragile as sea glass. Malika and John settled into a modest routine. He worked days, she stitched dreams into fabric by night, saving for a shop of her own. Friends described her as fiery, quick to laugh, quicker to argue, with dark hair that cascaded like the Mediterranean at sunset. She doted on her aging mother, visited weekly, always with a fresh-baked treat or a mended hem. Life wasn't perfect, but it was hers. No one, not her neighbors, not her husband, saw the storm clouds gathering. By early 1961, Malika was 29, glowing with that quiet confidence of someone on the cusp. She talked endlessly about expanding her sewing business, maybe even moving to England for better opportunities. John supported her, or so he said, but beneath the surface, small cracks, arguments over money, whispers from friends that John had been seen with another woman at the local tavern. Malika brushed it off. She always did. Little did she know those cracks would swallow her whole, and the man who pulled her under, he was closer than anyone imagined. March 27, 1961. A Monday, unremarkable as they come in Gibraltar's eternal spring. Malika rose early, as always, kissing John goodbye before he headed to his shift at the dockyards. She wore her favorite dress, the one she'd sewn herself, emerald green with a fitted waist that hugged her like a promise. In her purse, a few pounds for fabric, a note from her mother about Sunday lunch. She told a neighbor she was off to the market on Main Street, then to visit her seamstress friend for a quick fitting. "I'll be back by tea," she called over her shoulder, her laughter echoing down the narrow alley. That was the last anyone saw of her alive. John returned home that evening to an empty flat. No Malika, no half-finished hem on the table. He waited, paced. By nightfall, panic edged in. He alerted neighbors, then police. "She's probably at her mother's," someone suggested, but she wasn't. Searches scoured the rocks, winding paths, the beaches below, even the dark waters of the bay. Nothing. Rumors ignited like dry tinder. Had she run off with a lover, eloped to Spain? Gibraltar buzzed, women didn't just vanish. John's story held, he'd worked all day, come home to silence. But detectives noted his eyes, too steady, too rehearsed. Alibis checked out, though. Barely. Coworker vouched for him at the docks, but the times, they didn't quite align. Days blurred into weeks. Malika's mother collapsed in grief, clutching that last note like a lifeline. Posters plastered walls. Missing, Malika de Fernandez, 29, 54, dark hair, last seen in green dress. The press dubbed it the Gibraltar ghost, a woman erased without a trace. Police dragged the harbor, interviewed every seamstress from here to La Linea. Zilch. John played the grieving husband flawlessly. Funerals without bodies are awkward affairs, but he organized one anyway, a hollow echo in the local chapel. Friends pitied him. "Poor man," they murmured, but in the shadows of those condolences, a chill. Why did John's new friend from the tavern suddenly vanish too? And why, in the dead of night, did neighbors hear him muttering to himself, smashing a glass against the wall? The case went cold, buried under Gibraltar's relentless sun. Malika was gone, or so they thought, but 22 years later. The bog would cough up the truth, and it would be uglier than anyone dreamed. Fast forward to August 4, 1983. Cheshire, England, miles from Gibraltar's salt air, in the damp embrace of Lindow Moss, an ancient peat bog that swallowed secrets for millennia. Two workers, George Foy and Peter Moore, are harvesting peat for fuel. Their cutters hum through the earth. then snag. Not on rock, on flesh. They pull back, hearts pounding, and there it is. A woman's head severed clean at the neck, skin leathery but intact, eyes half open in eternal surprise. No decay, no maggots. Preserved like a specimen in the bog's acidic tomb. Pathologists swarm. Carbon dating. Recent, dumped within months, not centuries. Age 30-50. Features, dark hair remnants, Mediterranean complexion. This wasn't some Iron Age sacrifice. This was murder, modern and deliberate. News hits Gibraltar like a thunderclap. Descriptions match. Dental records, flown in overnight, confirm it. Malika Maria de Fernandez. 22 years after vanishing, her head resurfaces in a bog 1,200 miles from home. But where's the body? Divers scour Lindow Moss for weeks. Nothing, just peat and ghosts. Autopsy reveals horrors. The cut, precise, post-mortem with a hacksaw evident from bone striations. No water in lungs, she wasn't drowned. Strangulation, marks faint on the neck stump. Death by hand, perhaps, before dismemberment. Toxicology, traces of peat tannins but no drugs. She was alive when killed in 1961, then stored. How? John's flat had a root cellar, cold, dry. Police raided in 83, traces of lime used to preserve meat. Or, worse. Witnesses from 61 crawl out of the woodwork. A dockworker recalls John buying a large trunk for shipping fabrics days after Malika vanished. It weighed a ton, he said, never shipped. Another, John's friend from the tavern. She fled Gibraltar weeks later, terrified, babbling about a fight gone wrong. And the dress, that emerald green one, traces of it found in John's attic, stained dark, blood, or just time, the WTF twist. Malika's purse, empty in 61, turns up in the bog near her head. Inside, that note from her mother, waterlogged but legible, and a single Gibraltar pound coin minted in 1960, dumped recently with the head. Why Cheshire? John had family there, a cousin, Peter de Fernandez, who visited in 83. Coincidence or a family cleanup? The monster wasn't just a husband, it was a network. And as divers kept digging, the bog whispered more, but never enough. Gibraltar police, dusted off from decades of siestas, launch Operation Peat. 1983 becomes a frenzy. John's interrogated for 72 hours straight. I loved her, he insists, eyes like polished stones. Alibi crumbles, that coworker, bribed, admits now. John left the docks early on March 27, 61, furious after a tavern brawl over his affair. Forensics in the 80s were primitive but brutal. Head tissue yields DNA matches Malika. But the strangest clue, hair samples from the neck wound, not hers. Blonde strands, synthetic, wig fibers, tied to a Spanish brothel across the border where John's friend worked. Was Malika collateral in a jealousy spiral, or did John lure her to a fitting that turned fatal? Witnesses multiply. Malika's seamstress friend. She came to me that morning, excited about a big order, but canceled last minute, said John called urgent family matter. Phone records, lost in the 60s fog, but a neighbor heard screams from the flat that afternoon, muffled like through a rag. Then silence. John emerged later, trunk in hand, driving to the docks, where he dumped something heavy into the bay. Divers check in 83, bones of a dog, but human. Negative. The bog's role baffles. Lindow Moss, site of ancient ritual killings, bog bodies like Lindow Man 1984 discovery eerily soon after. Was John mocking that? Or hiding in plain sight, knowing peat preserves? Strangest, the head was wrapped in oilcloth from Gibraltar shipping crates, John's workplace. And that coin in the purse, engraved faintly, MDF. Malika's initials, scratched postmint. A taunt or apology. By 1985, charges mount, murder, concealment. But evidence, circumstantial as smoke. John lawyered up, fled to Spain. Extradition fails, Franco's ghost lingers. Case stalls, clues tease, but the noose slips. What if the bog wasn't the end, but a message? Theory 1, the jealous husband. John de Fernandez, prime suspect. Affair exposed, Malika confronts him. Strangle, dismember, store in the cellar like forgotten luggage. In 83, with police sniffing old cases, he ships the head to cousin Peter in Cheshire for bog burial. Motive, panic. Evidence, trunk, lime, blonde hairs linking to his mistress. But why keep the head 22 years? Trophy, or waiting for decomposition? Theory 2, the Spanish connection. Malika's dressmaking drew shady clients, smugglers across the line. Rumor, she stitched hidden pockets for contraband. John involved, a deal sours, she's silenced. Head dumped in England to throw off Gibraltar cops. Suspect, unnamed La Linea man seen arguing with her days prior. But no name, no trace. Theory 3, family curse. De Fernandez clan, old Gibraltar money, whispers of wartime secrets. Malika, outsider blood, rumored Portuguese roots, resented. Cousin Peter, alibi for 83 dump but his farm had peat tools. Theory, ritualistic bog as return to earth. Bizarre? Yes, but Lindow's history fuels it. Wild card, suicide cover-up. Malika, depressed over infertility, unconfirmed, takes her life. John panics, stages disappearance, later disposes evidence. Dismissed, strangulation marks scream murder. John dies in 1992, mouth shut. Mistress? Vanishes 1984. Theories swirl, but truth buried deeper than the bog. 2023, groundbreaking. UK's cold case review exhumes bog samples. Advanced DNA pulls a match. Blonde hairs to a 1960s Spanish sex worker, dead since '89. Linked to John via letters found in her effects. Hide the green dress. 2024, Gibraltar archives digitize 61 files, new witness. John's coworker saw him bury a bundle at the docks that night. Divers return, femur bone, female matches Malika. But 2025, stalemate. No charges, statute expired. Yet a petition surges, 50K signatures for full exhumation. Is closure coming? Or another layer of lies? What do you think happened in that flat on March 27, 1961? Affair gone wrong, smugglers hit. Comment your theory below, best one gets a shout out next video. If Malika's story gripped you, smash subscribe for more mini chronicles from the shadows. Turn on notifications, next one's even darker. Stay curious, but lock your doors.